I have a friend whose wife had an abortion, and every year on their birthday, or on the baby's birthday, they are, obviously very upset because they regretted it later in life. And they just did it because they didn't want a baby at the time, and they didn't realize, the
Yeah, no, I get that.
of
I
what
get
they were
that.
doing.
And I think what you're saying is something that's true. I mean, I bet we'd be able to point out a couple circumstances here and there where women regret getting an abortion, right? But just because something can come with potential future regret doesn't mean that we should make it illegal. Wait, is it questionable to say that the fetus is alive? No. I agree with the 97% of biologists in which say that its life starts at the moment of conception. But I don't think that we should value something just because it's alive.
Oh, you just made yourself sound absolutely stupid.
What?
Explain that.
Wait. Okay, sure.
I mean, that
sure.
is
I'll explain it. Wait, you think it's ignorant to say it's not? Okay.
1,000% that is ignorant.
So you're saying that it's ignorant for me to say that we shouldn't value something just because it's alive?
Yes.
So are you a vegan?
No, not at all.
Yeah, you walked right into the fucking point. Good job, idiot.
You should value its life. It should have a good life. I don't believe that. I'm a hunter. I try to kill my own game. I try to grow my own food because at the store they live shitty lives, and I eat I eat the food, but that is a human life. It is a human.
Okay.
You have to understand that it's not a cow that it doesn't understand what day to day is. It can't concept that.
Now you're saying it's valuable because it's human.
And it thinks grass.
Sir, question. What is brain death?
Brain death?
Yeah.
It's whenever your brain stops working and you can't function on your own.
Right. So brain death is the total and irreversible lack of cognitive function. People that are brain dead are kept alive by life support, meaning they're human and alive. When doctors terminate the life support, it kills that human that was alive. Is that murder?
No, because it can't be reversed. Like the life is done at that point. It cannot be reversed. But whenever a baby is in the womb, it's gonna get better and it's going to live.
Okay. All right. So you're basically saying that like the brain dead patient has less survivability than the fetus. So I don't think that like future survivability really matters to us when we're trying to determine if it's murder or not murder to kill in a life. And then second response, not necessarily. For us to have, or to say that a fetus is guaranteed a future life is not true. It's not a guarantee. But like I'll give you an example relating to the first point, that future survivability is kind of not relevant to us giving people the right to life. Like think about it this way. If my like 3-year-old child has like brain cancer and they're going to die in a week, would it be murder if somebody came up and killed them, even though they don't have much future survivability? Maybe they'll like live just as long as the brain dead patient would.
No, sir.
I asked you if it was murder. Okay, you're saying that so it would be murder. So yeah, even though like the brain dead patient may only have like another like week left of their biological life, like we'd still say under your view that it is murder to kill any innocent human that's alive. That it'd be murder to pull the plug on a brain dead patient, and that's why we shouldn't accept your view. And that's why we shouldn't value something merely because it's human and alive. So we have to find some other trait to grant value to life. I'd say that other trait would be a sentient and or conscious experience, possessing a mind, right? Being able to rationalize the world around you at any level. And that ability develops in the fetus at around 20 through 24 weeks. And it is when that ability develops that I start valuing the fetus. And this view also explains why it's intuitive for us not to think that it's murder to pull the plug on a brain dead patient, because although they're human and alive, right, just like a fetus at 10 weeks, we don't value them because they like lack a conscious experience and they'll never have one again, right? So that's why your view is wrong. That's why we shouldn't value something merely because it's human and alive. And I gave you the better view of like possessing a sentience or sentient experience that would be a little bit better, conform better with reality, explain our intuitions about the fact that we don't think it's a murder to pull the plug on a brain dead patient, and it also like leads to better outcomes.
Yeah. Do you have a child?
No. Do you have a uterus?
No, but I have a child.
Right.
And he started off at that point, and he is here now. And imagine the heartbreak that I would have went through if she just decided to have an abortion. My son is my entire world. I would die tomorrow for him. And imagine if that got taken away from me. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe we could agree here. if I was married to a woman and we'd planned to have a child, tried for pregnancy forever, and then she got pregnant, and we had already started picking out names, looking at things like that, but then like 15 weeks into her pregnancy, she got an abortion, I'd be like very sad, right?
Yes.
But here's my response. I don't think that we should use the baseless emotions of men to control what women can or can't do with their bodies. Because I could agree with you. I'd be sad as fuck. Okay, but like I don't think that like my sadness justifies like infringing upon the woman's human rights. I mean, like think about it. How sad were the slave owners after the Civil War? You know, does that mean that we should have just given them the right to treat black people like property again because they're so sad? Like no. Okay, so then why, because of our sadness, does that give us the right to treat women like property?
A woman isn't property for one, and for two,
you're saying that you're saying that you have control and ownership over the uterus, what's in it, and what leaves from it. I'd consider that very synonymous with property.
From a woman, because I can hand my wife my phone, and she will tell you the exact same thing that I'm saying, and she's a woman.
Okay, she's just gonna say that she thinks it should have been illegal for her to get an abortion because her husband would have been sad.
Is that not true?
I think that it fully depends on the situation. If the baby won't have quality of life, then, you know.
Can I ask you a question? How sad would your husband be if you divorced him right now?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
How sad would your husband be if you divorced him right now?
He'd be wrecked.
Should it be illegal for you to divorce him right now?
I wouldn't divorce him because we're in a healthy relationship.
No, yeah, that's great. Like, I wouldn't break up with my girlfriend either. Yeah, no, I wouldn't break up with my girlfriend either. I love my girlfriend. Like, I bet you love your husband. But I still think it should be legal for me to break up with my girlfriend. Should it be legal for you to divorce your husband, even though you'd never do it in a billion years and you're going to die with him?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for disproving your husband's point.
A child is a completely different thing because both of us made the decision to have a child.
Just like both of you made the decision to get married.
Yes, 150%. But my point is the child is just as much mine as it is hers. The DNA is 50-50. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, but you lose what happens to that DNA from the moment it enters into her body until the moment it leaves her body, because giving you a right to the DNA, aka the fetus, would thereby also be giving you the right to what happens with her body. And I could acknowledge that this is unfair for you, but reality is unfair. You know, if there was like a version of reality where pregnancy occurred by spawning a glowing orb that floats in the air into existence that's connected to both the body of the man and the woman, then you guys would both have a fair and equal say-so over what happens to the fetus. But that just simply isn't the case in reality. It's unfair to men, but suck it up. That's reality.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah, take it away.
How late in the pregnancy do you support abortion? Is it like full term, anything like that?
Yeah, so I think that every single woman and girl in America should have a federally protected access to elective lethal abortion until 20 through 24 weeks. After that point, I don't mind rescinding elective lethal abortions back down to the state. However, I think that every single woman and girl should have full and total federal access to abortion in circumstances of GRAPE or SA or life of the mother for full term. And I think that we should leave it up to the say-so of the doctors to determine after 20 through 24 weeks if an abortion would be medically necessary, not to like constraints or parameters of the laws, because that creates like very bad outcomes, like individuals not being operated on and dying because their doctors were too scared to do this procedure. Okay, well, if we give the doctors a say-so, all of a sudden they make that ultimate determination. They should have that power so they're not too scared. But basically, like the view that I'm describing is what was Roe v. Wade.
Okay. Yeah, I do agree with that. Not necessarily the later term, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like not supporting late-term elective lethal abortions is actually pretty typical of pro-choicers, pretty typical of Democrats, pretty typical of liberals. In fact, that was literally the view of Roe v. Wade. Fun fact.
Yeah, I know.
The Democrats in Roe v. Wade support the same policy for late-term elective abortions. Yeah.
So I agree with like the life-threatening and SA and all that, because I didn't get pregnant, but I am a victim of that. So I do agree with that aspect of it. But I have a friend whose wife had an abortion, and every year on their birthday, or on the baby's birthday, they are, you know, obviously very upset because they regretted it later in life. And they just did it because they didn't want a baby at the time, and they didn't realize, you know, the
Yeah, no, I get that. I get
of what
that.
they were doing.
And I think what you're saying is something that's true. I mean, I bet we'd be able to point out a couple circumstances here and there where women regret getting an abortion. right? But just because something can come with potential future regret doesn't mean that we should make it illegal. I mean, I think that, maybe the comparison that I made earlier about like divorce could be re-referenced. Many people regret getting divorced. It doesn't mean
Divorce. A divorce does not take away a life.
And I've already explained to you why we shouldn't consider it to be morally wrong to take away that life, because the position that we should give anything that is human and alive the right to life would imply that it would also be murder to pull the plug on a brain dead patient. And the better position would be to start valuing that life at 20 through 24 weeks when it has the ability to deploy any level of subjective experiences, as I believe that it is our engagement with the world around us in a subjective manner through our perceptions, conscious and sentient experience that makes us morally valuable. And I also, that's what separates us from any other species on Earth, due to the higher levels of those experiences in which we possess.
Do you understand that if your mom got an abortion, you would have never been here?
Yeah, I also understand that my dad pulled out. I never would have been here. Should it have been illegal for my dad to pull out?
No, but you weren't alive in the moment.
Okay, that doesn't change the fact that I still wouldn't have been here today. And in your argument that is that if my mom got an abortion, I wouldn't be here today. Okay, I also would not be here today, regardless of the fact that I wasn't alive when he would have pulled out. But if he pulled out, I wouldn't have been here today.
We're just spinning our gears here. You aren't understanding what I'm saying at all. There's no way that you are understanding in your head.
Well, I think that there's a difference. I think that there's a difference between me not understanding what you're saying and me understanding what you're saying, disagreeing with it, and refuting it with reason and logic. In fact, I do understand what you're saying. I was pro-life for a very, 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 very long time. From the ages when I could conceptualize of these things until 16, I was pro-life. I thought that abortion should be banned. I mean, I understood these arguments in and out, but I just simply disagree with them, and I've given you my reason why. And maybe our conversation today can attest to the fact that maybe the pro-choice view is comparable to the pro-life view, because I think I've kind of been able to combat everything that you've attempted to argue.
But I get that, but. If you were 100% right, if everything you're saying is 100% true, why did the majority vote go to Donald Trump?
Of course.
Why did most people in America vote for him?
Yeah.
If your views were 100% right and your opinions were there and a fact.
Yeah. I mean, you said that you're a Christian earlier, right?
Yes, sir.
If everything that Jesus said was 100% right, how come the Romans killed him?
Because that was the plan from the start. I mean, God knew from the beginning of time that that's how Jesus was going to die.
Right. So in other words, you're saying it's possible for something to be right but not popular. Right. And I mean, that's what I'd respond to you. But actually, supporting access to abortion is pretty popular. Something like 65% of Americans support Roe v. Wade. But the more critical explanation would be, truth doesn't track the majority approval. When you're looking at the requirements, if you're looking at the requirements for something to be true, one of those requirements will not be the majority must agree with it, right? And a good example of this would be the globe Earth. I mean, for most of human history, people thought the Earth was flat. Yet the people that thought the Earth was round, they were still the right ones, okay, regardless of the fact that 98% of people alive disagreed with them.
Yes. So what you're saying is that however many people that voted for Donald Trump is just 100% wrong. Their opinion means nothing to you, and they're just 100% wrong.
Yeah, definitely in the context of abortion, if they hold a pro-life view similar to yours. And it's not that your opinion means nothing to me. It's just that I think your opinion is wrong, 100%, as you said.
What about immigration?
Yeah, we could talk about that too. What are your views? Do you support mass deportation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Name one good outcome that mass deportation has on American society.
MS-13, the drug cartel, them not paying taxes. I mean, I'm in the construction industry, and I can state a fact, which this is 100% a fact. The illegal immigrants cannot pay taxes. Am I right or am I wrong? That is 100% a fact. Correct?
You're wrong. Not only can undocumented immigrants pay taxes, either through sales tax or working as a W-2 employee through an ITIN or a taxpayer identification number, but they do pay taxes through sales tax and ITINs as W-2 employees. In fact, undocumented immigrants pay $100 billion in taxes every single year on the federal, state, and local level. And then as it relates to your first point, removing gang members, I mean, essentially what the reduction of that claim is going to be, that mass deportation is going to reduce crime. So it's actually going to increase crime by weakening our economy, thereby increasing poverty. With higher levels of poverty comes more crime. So both your points there are wrong.
The only thing that's increasing crime is whenever liberals are protesting and burning cars in LA. That's the only crime that's been increased at all.
Wait, really? What? Are you joking?
No, not at all.
Okay, is this supposed to be like a satirical point or something? Is this supposed to be like a gotcha?
What do you mean?
Okay, well, I mean, there's something like what? Like a rape every 40 seconds? So, like, I just want to clarify that, you know, when like the protests in LA were going on, it's not like there wasn't like a rape every 40 seconds somewhere else in America. Because I basically, like, what I heard from your claim is that that's like the only crime that has happened. What?
So deporting an illegal immigrant is causing somebody to rape somebody else? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, your claim was that was the only crime that's happened consequential of mass deportation?
Yeah, yes, sir. Okay.
No. Well,
I'm not a complete. Yeah, come on, give me a little more credit than that, bro.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Now,
you said I don't know. That's funny.
No, but listen. No, that's wrong. That's wrong, man. That's really, really, really wrong. So mass deportation is really hurting the American economy. To sum it up in a nutshell, insofar as why, you're forcing 8.3 million workers of our industries out of the industries, and you're forcing over 12 million consumers of our industries out of the consumer base. According to the Center on American Progress, that's going to decrease GDP growth by 1.1 through 1.7 trillion dollars a year, accounting for their direct contributions either to labor or to the GDP through the wages that they garner, plus their overall reductions in our productive capacities and efficiencies in our industries when we just force 8.3 million laborers out. And I mean, that just goes to weaken the economy. I mean, slow GDP growth, not as many consumers, not as many producers are operating less efficient. And that's bad, right? It reduces the overall average quality of life. It weakens the economy. With a weaker economy comes higher levels of poverty. Can we agree there?
You're just speaking things that
right. With a higher level of poverty comes more crime, because a lot of crime, particularly violent crime, is going to be consequential of poverty. So that's why I say mass deportation causes more crime in America.
Since deportation, there were illegal immigrants at my work. And since deportation, which my work, I'm a union man, they're a democratic thing because of the right to work and all that shit. But since we've deported them, number one, we've got a raise. Number two, we have more people that are American citizens that need a job. Every single person that has left because they were illegal, since they have left, we have replaced them with an American citizen. We are giving jobs to the black community, we're giving jobs to the Mexican community, and we're giving jobs to the white community. But they're not illegal. They're not here illegally. Right. And you keep saying illegal immigrants, which the number one word in it is they are illegal.
Right,
correct?
I'll respond to like they're undocumented, but they didn't enter into America with the use of legal means. So now to respond to the first claim that you made, like we could just like replace all these jobs with Americans. That's not true. I mean, there's already 8 million open job opportunities in America right now. Americans aren't filling those. So what reason would we have to believe that they'd fill the ones that the undocumented immigrants would leave?
One more time. I don't know what's going on with my phone. My volume turned down or something.
So first point would be there's already 8 million open job opportunities in America that Americans haven't filled. So if they haven't filled those, I don't really see any reason that they would fill the ones that undocumented immigrants would leave. Also, not to mention that there'd be less job opportunities if we did a mass deportation because there'd be less individuals buying the goods from the American companies. Like you can't replace the 12 million consumers that would be lost out of the consumer side of things. You can't replace that. You can't replace that with citizens. That number's gone indefinitely. And because that number's gone indefinitely, there's going to be a lower demand indefinitely for American goods. And because there's an indefinitely lower demand for American goods, you're going to have indefinitely a lower amount of jobs. So that's why mass deportation also decreases total job opportunity. Now, to your second point, that you're just saying, well, they're here illegally. We no longer have illegal workers, right? Well, we could fix this with something else called mass amnesty. So we can make every single worker in this country legal, rather a citizen or a resident, by simply offering them the residency or the citizenship. Now we completely fix the issue of illegal workers. We completely fix the issue of undocumented immigrants. We completely fix the issue of people being here illegally by offering them that pathway to residency or citizenship. And the reason why you should support that is because I've just been able to point out like a billion reasons how mass deportation helps America. Mass amnesty not only doesn't do any of those things, but only makes our country better, because all of a sudden it's harder to exploit those undocumented workers because they have more bargaining power due to their residency or citizenship. So guess what? Higher wages. Higher wages, guess what? More GDP growth. More GDP growth, guess what? More productive companies making more goods to sell to more consumers with more money. Guess what? Higher qualities of life, guess what? Lower levels of poverty. Lower levels of poverty, guess what? Low crime, okay? So every single thing I just said would be a negative consequence of mass deportation is actually mirrored as its opposite when we discuss mass amnesty.
So you truly think inside your head, if we opened up the borders completely and let whoever wanted to come to America to be able to come in and milk off of our economy and get jobs, you truly think that our country is going to be better? Because I know you're going to go to a liberal thought and think that all of our money can be split apart.
I've not once mentioned what I think the security/regulation should be for the southern border. I've only been mentioning what we should do with the undocumented immigrants already in America.
Not just the southern border. I'm not talking about just Mexicans. I'm talking about Germans and
all borders. I've never once mentioned what I think the regulation, security, and legislation should be for all American borders. I haven't mentioned that once. I've only been trying to have a discussion with you about what we should do with the undocumented immigrants that are already in America, and what would happen to America if we removed them, and what would happen to America if we offered them a pathway to residency or citizenship.
So exactly, I understand, but that's. He already knows that. He's not retarded or uneducated.
Okay, all right, man. So we shouldn't use that word. That word is a slur.
Yeah. Okay.
No, man, I'm being serious. Super quick,
I
dude.
get it.
Like so like typically when like people have like came up here and like and used that word, I usually just like turn around and kick them. But I mean, I was thinking the other day, like the use of that term is like really accepted in society, and I think it's almost better for me to like explain to you why we shouldn't use that. So that's what I'm going to do. We shouldn't use that word because it's been used forever in an incredibly derogatory fashion against individuals with like different types of mental conditions. And I don't think it's acceptable to use. Like, I understand that it's societally acceptable. A lot of people don't really find much of an issue with it, but I think society should find an issue with it. But yeah, no, that's why we shouldn't use that word.
Yeah. So do you believe that we should just close the border and keep the immigrants that are here and just close the border and not allow anybody else in here?
Okay, I'll tell you what I think about that. Then I'm going to remove you just because you didn't really seem super receptive to my explanation. Like I usually just kick people. I usually just
I really did. I took it to heart. I'm not just making that up. It was very messed up for me to say because my sister has an autistic kid, and if I said that in front of her and she's a Republican, she would have smacked the shit out of me. And she should. Yeah. Yes. And it was a very messed up thing for me to say, and I will apologize for that. Truthfully,
sweet man.
From the bottom.
I guess it's good that you make that recognition. But I guess like real quick chat. You know, like I don't know. Do you think it's acceptable? To like try to start explaining to people that use that word like why it's wrong? Because I don't know. Like I guess in the past, like I've never really given that explanation. We just kind of kick them and move on. But I think it's a good thing that you could recognize that that's wrong. And seriously, I'd very seriously recommend like you just stop using that word. But anyways, I'll give you my takes on the border regulation just so I could give you my perspective. That I am going to move on. I think that we should have as many legal ports of entry into America as possible to serve as many individuals as possible while screening them, figuring out who they are, and just simply rejecting them if they have prior violent offenses. I think that'll also eradicate all incentive for undocumented entry and reflect incredibly positively for the American economy, the American people, and that is truly placing America first. But yeah, man, appreciate you and your wife for the conversation. Stop using that word, very bad word.
Yes, sir, and I appreciate it. I really enjoyed having a conversation with you, truthfully. Yeah, it was enjoyable.
Appreciate you.
Have a good night.
You as well.